But I can't tell you how thrilled we are when Riki actually comes to town. As you know, he's been our go-to guy for years, and across the country, across the world, I don't know anybody that knows more about the defense of a country with rocketry, with missiles. And it's high time that we talk about this. As you know, we've gone through a very, very stressful period of time here in the Pacific of recent. Kim Jong-un has done all kinds of stuff, including finally an intercontinental ballistic missile that could carry a big payload, and we've seen it could go right to Washington, D.C. And this has been something that Riki has been involved in a number of years. We're going to learn a little bit more about it right now from the Missile Defense Advocacy Alliance by way of New Zealand, Riki Ellison. Happy holidays, my friend.
Hey, aloha.
Nice to see you here.
That's great.
How come you're here?
I'm coming through my tour of Korea and Okinawa, and Tokyo, Guam, and here I was with our 94th AAMDC, the units that supplied all of the Pacific with ballistic missile defense last night. We had a celebration on Santa Barbara's Ball and recognized a couple
I must tell you,
outstanding soldiers.
I must tell you that we've been passing that information along, and more people are going to the website, realizing that, every now and again, you claim that somebody's crying wolf, that you say that somebody's overreacting, and I do know that has been pointed at you over the years when people didn't realize how serious a situation we're in. It must be, and so right now it must be very gratifying to know that we are a much better position of awareness than we used to be, and maybe we can realize that there's more to this missile defense that meets the eye. We're not 100% ready.
Right, and we've been talking about this really a lot over the past year and how important and the urgency of the need to have defense on it. And I think, we have a window here. We had a window. I don't think we took advantage of it as much as we can. We still have a window. We need to do as much as we can so we don't do what happened 76 years ago.
Let me ask you this, because it's very prophetic, and one of the things I noticed yesterday, and if you folks go to the website, which I'm going to point you at in a little bit, it was a reflection on what happened 76 years ago. December the 7th, yesterday when we did that, it was like very, very emotional for a lot of people. And knowing the level of sophistication of our perceived enemies now, the devastating attack on Pearl Harbor was a physical thing with ships and planes and all kinds of stuff coming at us. All that damage can be done with one piece of rocketry today.
And we were surprised, and we were not prepared enough, and our deterrent was not strong enough to prevent that, and we went to war because we weren't prepared and we didn't have a deterrent. So, North Korea is in a similar position where they can do something like this and make us go to war. We're not, strong enough to deter them from doing that. We need to do everything we can to prevent something like that would ever happen.
Let me ask you this, because I think that it was very, very important for people to understand this last go-around with the test, where this missile went way up in the air and came right down 600 miles away from where it started. But it did show that just by adjusting the trajectory, that intercontinental ballistic missile from North Korea could have gone right to Washington, D.C.
That was their
That's an eye-opener.
Most successful ICBM test with a capability to carry their hydrogen bomb that they tested earlier this year in the payload. And guys, they don't have to be accurate.
Yeah.
They don't have to detonate that inside the atmosphere and have a successful reentry vehicle. They can detonate that over the atmosphere, and they don't have to be 500 miles. They can do the damage. So what they've proven.
That's right. A near miss. You can miss by 400 miles and still you've really hit it.
What they've proven is their ability to strike the entire United States.
Yeah.
Which, I'm going to bring it right to you in Hawaii.
Yeah.
We only have 44 missiles, guys. We only have 44 interceptors. We're not going to increase that capability till 2021-22.
That's a long time down the road.
And they, unchecked as they are going to work to overmatch that number. So you got to look at the Northcom combatant commander, who is going to have to defend the entire country.
Here's what
I'm just going to say, Hawaii is not in the position it was before this test. Because before this test, it was about Hawaii and the west coast of the United States, which they could strike.
Because it was so close.
Well, because that was the only capability they were approved. Now, we have a stress now that if they overmatch on the situation, that we have to figure out what's the best capacity we can do between now and when the new GPIs come in. So we're going to get, I think, another 24 of these in 2021 or 22.
But that's so long away. I mean, this is, next year's 18. That's 5 years away.
And again, here I come back to you saying, yes, we're developing an SM3 Block 2A interceptor in PRMF in Hawaii that has capacity or capability inherent to shoot down an ICBM. We're pushing through Congress to make sure that we test that thing as soon as possible.
Yesterday wouldn't be so soon, right?
So you could have another underlay underneath those 44. We have that's of urgency here to do that. And Japan's got the same thing, because guess what? Japan and Korea don't have anything in their inventory, in our inventory, over there to defeat that type of missile with those speeds.
Yeah, see, we have to people got to understand that. Yeah, they really got to understand that.
So because of the Lofton launch, and they showed ICBM speeds coming down, all our regional missile defense are for slower speeds, slower missiles. So right now, Guam, Japan, and Korea, the 44 in Alaska can't get to them.
Right.
So they don't have anything. So,
but you know what? One of the main concerns is somebody called up the other day and said, they don't have the capacity to put together that many nuclear devices. That we got these 44 things, but here's the cautionary thing. Anything up in the air is going to take one of those 44 out of business, right? And pretty soon you can put up a Scud.
Well, it's going to take more than one. We're going to shoot more than one of the 44. We can shoot up to 6 or 4.
That's the same target.
So those 44 aren't 44 North Korean missiles. So they're a much smaller number on that aspect of it. And North Korea knows that. The transportable erectile launcher, the TEL, which is what they used, we saw for the first time was all made by North Korea. So they're self-producing the launchers right now.
How scary is that? Because, before, it was a radical, government that was just going out and buying stuff. And acquiring stuff through their partners. Now they're making stuff.
And they can hide them in the mountains. And we struggled in the Middle Eastern Iraq wars to try and take out these launchers and these Scud launchers. We couldn't even do it back then. So now they've watched us. So one of the options is to try and take those things out before they launch, but it's going to be very challenging for us to do that. But they're going down a path right now, unchecked, to create a capacity overload so they can negotiate with us to try to outmatch those 40.
That's the key. We're going to take a break, go look at traffic, and pay a bill or two. And then when Riki Ellison from Missile Defense Advocacy Alliance and I return, we're going to talk about what's the reason for all of this stuff. What are they trying to achieve? What are they trying to tell us they can do? And what do they want to not do it? That's the interesting stuff. Is this one little guy all of a sudden the boss of the Pacific, or maybe the world? Let's find out. It's all about food. And even though Riki Ellison is here in Hawaii, he's not going to run the marathon Sunday, but he probably could. It looks like he's in great shape. How do you, by the way, this is a good thing. You've stayed relatively in all the traveling and the moving around you do, and the amount of entertaining and dinners and lunches and all of this stuff. What kind of a routine do you try to maintain to keep yourself in the kind of shape you look like you're in?
I get up every morning at 5 a.m. and go about an hour and a half. Cardio and weights, light weights. I can't do the heavy stuff.
Nobody can. I got a dog that just pulled the tendon out of my elbow. But I think that this is very, very important, because it's like you said when you first got here, Riki, that we're looking, back in history and time at what happened 76 years ago, and when we were surprise attacked. And one of the things that comes up in discussion a lot, and we have to admit it, it's we in Hawaii were kind of expendable. I hate to say that, but it is collateral damage. Everybody knew that we're heading towards the Second World War and all of that stuff. But when it actually happened, it was at a greater cost than anybody could have estimated. And in many respects, we've come full circle, and we're at another point in time where we better be looking after ourselves here in Hawaii, and we better make sure that we are capable of defending ourselves.
Yeah. And I think, there is, if things go in a different way or in a wrong way or an accidental way, there is a probability of a world war with China.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be real about it.
Let's be real, you know. Yeah.
And if the United States goes first and we preemptively strike, China's going to come in and support North Korea. They've told us that. North Korea knows that. So that's real. If North Korea strikes us first, then China will step away, and we will have that opportunity to take out North Korea. But that's the game that's going on.
That's the game. That game is going on. The posturing that's going on every day.
And I think the exercises that we're doing.
Yeah.
We're bringing 150 sorties on that border, which we don't. And there's a little bit of provocation, right, to get this thing moving in a direction. So that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So we have to do everything we can to pose the strongest deterrent to North Korea and China that there's no way we're going in.
You know, we've had this attitude. Everything's going to be all right. You know, everybody, no matter what happens, our economy is going to be fine. We're going to love each other once again. We're not going to have any problems. But every now and again, the world has to become aware of somebody that is really not walking the same walk that most of us are walking. So what I said before the break is, what does North Korea, what does Kim Jong-un expect in return for not unleashing the wrath that they are said to have?
Their whole identity and their whole skill set is based on these nuclear ballistic missiles for self-survival. They think that South Korea and the U.S. are going to invade at some point and take over their country.
Right.
The only way they can stop them is, in their mind, is to have nuclear capability to settle that fight as soon as possible, to strike Seoul or the West or the United States for their self-survival. So that's real for them. So that's coming. If we take out, if they cross, there's a red line, guys. There is a red line built, and they're staying right up next to it by doing these lost in launches. If they push out, and if they drop a nuclear bomb in the atmosphere over the Pacific, testing whatever, it's coming. And when it's coming, we're gonna take out that leadership. There's going to be a response, and I don't know if we know we can't take out everything before their responses. So that's the element that has to be built up on our end to be able to defend and defeat that response, so we can take that off the table.
Okay, but I must tell you that we've had some reaction from people who says, in the final analysis, there's nothing to gain by this coalition that you're talking about, whether it's Japan and South Korea and the U.S. or anybody else, going in and taking North Korea away from the current regime, because what's there? There's poverty there. There's a huge class separation. What there is military strength, and that's it.
Well, the gain is to eliminate those nuclear weapons. Now, the easier and the most logical piece is to have China control it.
Yeah.
Give it like Guam. Give it to them, so they can have those nuclear weapons under control. We're going to have to deal with it, because if we don't deal with this guy, Iran's going to get it. Other countries in the world are going to get it, and they're going to threaten. They're going to threaten the West. So, and he's going to sell that. Well, guess where he's making money?
That's where their money comes from.
Right. Besides slavery and drugs and counterfeiting, they're going to make money. So we have a proliferator right there that we have to deal with. And we really have to get China on board on this. And China's playing the big game because they want us out of the Pacific.
Here's a thing that you brought up off the air and people have talked to me about, is that we are looking here in Hawaii at the reality of how either prepared or unprepared we are for whatever. And right now they're trying to tell us that, we got this air raid system that's been reactivated after,
No, that's great. I mean, you need to be, absolutely, regardless on natural disasters, nuclear.
We have to know.
You have to be prepared for it. You live in a situation in the middle Pacific where you're threatened.
But we're being told right now that if you have a 2-week supply of food and you hear the siren and you run into your house and you shut up the whole doors and you shut up everything so nothing can get in and you can stay there for a couple of weeks, you're going to be okay. And I do know that what you said earlier, that in some cases you don't even have to be accurate within several hundred miles of a target to cause the devastation that one of these weapons can cause.
Well, a thermonuclear weapon can penetrate
anything,
concrete, penetrate anything.
Yeah, so I mean, being in your house, behind your door in a single wall house in Hawaii is not going to help you.
Well, what's going to help us is being able to deter him from ever targeting Hawaii and defeating if he ever did that. And that's where we go back into the issue that we have. There's only 44 GBIs right now. We need to develop and deploy a underlayer, a regional missile defense for Japan, for Korea, for Guam, for Hawaii, that can defeat these missiles in case our 44 aren't there.
Where are these assets?
They are being tested at PRMF, Kauai, next year, in 2018. But we've been tested against slower missiles. We need to be tested against the ICBM speed.
You got to point that out. We have to make sure that, listen, we've done a lot of programs. Ricky and I have been talking about this for years. We're relatively certain that up to this current threat, that we were pretty much able to, of course, we wanted a few more of these assets to be here in Hawaii, to be able to deploy it from here in Hawaii. But we've been sort of led to believe, and Ricky's informed us but this is a different game. This intercontinental ballistic missile is a different piece of weaponry, isn't it?
Well, we're in a different game. The last administration used this missile that we're developing for our ships across the country.
Which is the Thunder, the Aegis, and that stuff we talked about. Right?
But that was built for Romania and Poland, for Iran. That threat's not there. And that threat is not an ICBM threat to Europe. So we built these things and required these things to defeat that. Now we have they're inherent to be able to hit faster objects. So we have to change that, test that, prove it, and then put it in our ships. And if need be, here in Kauai. But that we've got baseline 9 ships here. So there's a certain baseline that has the processing capability to fire these new missiles. And those have to be outfitted with this missile as soon as we can. And even if it's not proven yet, we've still got to do it. For the absolute cautious and defense of our Hawaii and the region.
Okay, now here's an interesting question, and there's actually a couple of them here. First of all, when we talked about we've talked about this an awful lot of times. What makes this current threat different than all the previous threats with regard to the actual missile? I don't know the answer to that. And what you're saying is that this particular vehicle is way more sophisticated than all the previous vehicles that these people have shown.
Two-stage. It's a two-stage vehicle. It was completely successful in its height and altitude and speed vertically to show that it can go horizontally. All the way to Washington.
That's just a different way of programming.
And they did that because they know the red line, right? They did that within their boundaries. And we've tolerated it. So this is the third or fourth vertical, they call it lofted launch, that they did. They're also demonstrating that the rest of the region can't be defended if they can create these type of speeds. This is what they did.
Payload. All right. We got more to come, including your opportunity to join us. When we talk about the testing that is being encouraged, we got to understand a couple of things. We're going to come back and address this after news break, and that is, number one, we have lots of offensive weapons at our disposal. We can go out and ruin a lot of people. But what are we going to do about protecting ourselves with stuff that's coming our way? We're not talking about, it's not the same thing. The missile defense and having an offensive capability are two different animals, and we'll talk about that when we come back. But right now, it's 7:30. It's time. Okay, so the thing is, you have to have more than a shotgun sign to ward off a missile. I mean, we have the Aloha Spirit, but, we need more stuff. Riki Ellison is here from the Missile Defense Advocacy Alliance. We've been talking about this for years. Only now has it become really evident to a lot of people, Riki, that, people are waking up to it. When they see an air raid siren being tested and they see government saying there's nothing to worry about, that means there's something to worry about. We know a little bit more than that, but you've never ever promoted doom and gloom or scare or fear, but that a strong defense is better than an offense, and that's kind of what you do, isn't it?
That's absolutely right. And just so everyone knows, all our missile defense is in the region, in Korea, just there, in Japan and Okinawa and in Guam are housed with their offense. So we're a team effort here. This is a deterrent. Our defense is defending our ability to bring and strike on North Korea.
Are people happy to hear that? I mean, I am, as a citizen, as a taxpayer, when you talk about military spending and all the kind of stuff that everybody's talking about when economies are tight, when you start talking about defense, you got my attention. It's not as though we're getting faster bombers to go bomb somebody. No. It's we're getting better missiles that we can knock down an attack on us.
And if you can prevent them from scoring, you win, no matter what. In any way you fight. So having that capacity, and the problem is, I go back to it, is DOD. This is under 2%. This is like 1%, 1.2% of the
budget, right?
The U.S. Army only has 2% of its troops doing this. Mm-hmm. So it needs much more attention, and you've seen it. We're seeing it. The president, we are upping the funding for it. We are looking at new technologies for it. We're looking at directed energy laser beams on UAV that can burn holes through pieces of metal and up through the rocket engines as they go in the boost phase. Because there's 300 seconds before they go top speed, and that's where they're the most vulnerable. We don't have we need to invest in that technology
to get that in that window.
Just eliminate all that. And I think that's where we're going. But we're not going to be there in the next 4 or 5 years. We got to deal with the problem that we've got today, and we need to have a layered defense. So you can't just have one layer, which is what we got in Hawaii. You need to have a complete layer of different interceptors at different ranges. And that's how we fight in the regions around the world.
We already do have testing scheduled. Okay, but the testing, what you're talking about is accelerating, speeding up the date, and the type of testing.
We've already got the testing. So there's a test upcoming in Kauai. There's 2 of them.
Right away.
Right? With this new missile, right? That we're already limited producing these things for this test and capability. All we're saying is get a better target. Get a target that's an ICBM capable. And be able to adjust to that. And if it doesn't work, let's figure out how to make it work. That's what testing's about.
And that's what we have great minds that are able to do that.
Well, we can do that. Let's bring that, and we can do it right here in the Pacific, because that's what they're designed to do and can do, and that's also a strategic message to guess who, those guys saying, take Hawaii, take Korea off the map, off their target.
Okay, now, one of the things that is a big concern, as you know here, is our number one source of income. Our number one revenue generator is tourism. So obviously, we have to make like everything's fine here in Hawaii, and we got no problems. Keep coming here, keep spending your money, keep our economy growing. Are you surprised? You just come back from Korea. You came from Guam. Yeah. Tell everybody what's happened to the traveling in Guam.
So I was in Guam 2 days ago. I met with Lieutenant Governor and their government. They've lost 40% revenue last month, and it's over that remark. They believe it's over the direct threat from the North Korean leader on Guam. Most of their
he mentioned Guam. That got everybody's attention.
So most of their tourism drop is from the Japanese. The Japanese are not coming. They've canceled hundreds of Japanese school groups, young groups, from going to Guam. So they didn't handle that the way they should. My belief. You've got to make sure that your island is the safest possible thing.
From any threat.
So if you promote that you're invincible, if you have the capability around you to do that,
and don't we in Guam? Actually, in Guam, isn't Guam lucky?
I was there at the flight line with our
you
B-1
see
bombers.
these guys, right?
So our offense is the stuff that's going in to take care of North Korea is housed right with our missile defense capability. We have a THAAD there, and that's that offense-defensive mix that goes forward on that aspect of it. But you got to look at the American public, and everybody looking at Hawaii and this threat. As this thing raises, are people going to go and have vacations here? When you've got a North Korean nuclear threat that's saying, "Hey, I'm gonna drop a nuclear bomb over the Pacific," do you think people are coming? I mean, just think through it a little bit. So, absolutely, we should be doing everything possible to give this the best defense we can.
Give people an idea, because you've seen so many of the frontline guys. One of the things, if you go to the Missile Defense Advocacy Alliance website, you're going to see Riki in different travels that he's doing, and others and members. Talking to the frontline people. These are the people that are in harm's way, that are up front, that are all deployed literally all over the place, particularly out there. They have to know. I mean, they must be able to give you more insight as to what they are feeling. I'm not talking about a feeling of confidence about their weaponry, because we know that we got the good weapons. But what about they're in that part of the world that's vulnerable?
These are soldiers, airmen, sailors. they're on the cusp of the world and making the world safe. This is their legacy. Nobody gives them any credit or recognition, but they can go back to their history. They've kept the world from going to war. They've kept Korea from going to war the last 12 months at the most heightening threat possibility. He's launched over 50 missiles in the last 12 months. He's got bigger weapons, and we have operators that may not have all the capacity they can. The systems are not all the way integrated they can be, but they're fighting with what they got, and they're strong.
You know, here's the thing that I think is important for people to understand, and that is all of this stuff that's done. I mean, we see the big missile test, that's one thing. But in actual fact, the bad guys are able to look at us and say, wow, these guys got this and these guys got that. So they're pretty capable, too. So we have to step up our threat to make it even bigger.
Well, you know what's powerful about this whole thing is also that we are integrated with the Koreans and the Japanese.
That really irritates
so we're a multinational front, and we're joined. So this is not just army out there on its own. It's everybody together, and that's the fight. That's where we have to show complete unison, and that's the deterrent. Now, I think the bigger strategic picture is that they're trying to push us, our influence, out of the Pacific.
Here's an interesting thing. It says, please ask Mr. Ellison to discuss the ironic nature of the fact that 76 years ago on this date, we were bitter enemies with our best allies now in Japan. And that's a great observation. I mean, we were 76 years ago, we couldn't have been madder at somebody, right? And vice versa. And now look at the joint effort that's being done. You were just there. You see this all the time.
Well, it's that part, and we can say the same thing with Germany.
Of course.
What we did in the Marshall Plan to rebuild and create a relationship and trust with a nation that was an enemy with us, now becoming the most powerful deterrent. Both Germany and Japan are the most powerful deterrent we have in the Asia region with our partnership. They are 1-to-1 with us. Japan's invested more money in missile defense than any other nation in the world.
Isn't it ironic that in many respects, because of agreements and treaties since the surrender, that the Japanese military is really a very small part of Japan. And what's happening is because of this defense, they have no offense.
Right. They're not allowed to have offense.
They're not allowed to have offense.
But look at what we did. We won the World War. We put in capitalism. I mean, it is the free market economy that we put in both Japan and Germany have exceeded that. The communist states their formulas did not work. Their capital, they had none. So that's why we have that ability to influence it. And again, Mike, they have to do more. I mean, why are we spending all our money? We got 30,000 troops over there. We're spending a lot of money of our tax dollars defending Europe, where they need to step it up. You're right. Japan they're great, but they need to step it up.
Yeah, you bring that point up, and it's very interesting. One of the differences, if you will, between the administrations of Obama and now Trump, both, even though they're diametrically different, both know how important this defense is. So neither one of them really stiffed anybody with regards to defense. We probably could have done some more, but I do know that the Trump administration is more reaching out and saying, hey, you guys got to put more skin in the game. We need more assets of yours, not just ours.
Why are we, and our people here in Hawaii or over there anywhere, using our tax dollars, and we're giving those tax dollars to the Europeans and possibly the Japanese that use those tax dollars for social programs and make us pay beyond the 2% that we're supposed to pay for their defense, and we've allowed them to do this. So we need to be able to be.
It's hard to backtrack off of that, isn't it? We have to take more advantage of maybe making the onus of I don't want to say guilt, but realization that we got to put more skin in the game. The U.S. can't do it all,
and we got to pull back. From that.
It is 7:44. Riki Ellison, Missile Defense Advocacy Alliance, and to tell you how to hook up with their website. And I'm telling you, you'll learn more from just going there every now and again, particularly when you get worried. You go there and you find out where Riki and his people have been, and you'll find out, not that we're going to be complacent about anything, but there's movement hopefully going in the right direction. And hopefully that's happening with you this morning in traffic. Okay, more fun than a barrel of monkeys. The interesting thing is, I'm talking to Riki Ellison, and Riki has been anything but a doomsdayer from day one. Very, very optimistic, very positive guy. We use a lot of football analogies. Many of you know that Riki's got a real love in football. He's a defensive giant. His son's an offensive giant. He's been putting a lot into the youth here. And I want to get back to the importance of what we can do to call our representatives and say, hey, can you please move the testing forward? Can we do more stuff on Kauai? But let's talk for just a minute. You've got a wonderful program here. This isn't part of our scheduled chat this morning, but very, very quietly behind the ranks, you and some of your friends have been working with our youth, particularly our challenged youth.
Yes.
Isn't that fun?
It was awesome. I think we got inspired by the Polynesian Hall of Fame when we were here earlier this year, and we put forward a program at the University of Hawaii. And Roy has been great with us. And
Chef Roy, we're talking about. Roy,
he's come in, and we've had some of our Marines and U.S. Army has come in, and we've collectively created a program this summer that we brought, 150, 200.
I want to saw these kids. It's so fun.
9 to 12, and we took them off the streets and put them in an academic environment. We increased their scores in mathematics and English, 20-30% in the two.
Some of them may have thought they were coming just to play football, right? But that's not the case. Let's get you put on the headset. What's happened is it was not a bait and switch by any means, but in actual fact, it had that. It sort of had that mode to it because all of a sudden some of these kids would say, hey, you know what? There's a lot going on here. It's not just playing football.
It's about lighting their hearts with passion, right? So there's a certain age of a kid before they make a decision on where they're going to go, and they're altered not by their parents, by someone else. And we just wanted to ignite their education,
light them up,
and put them in access. The University of Hawaii is right here that they can go and dream and be as big as they want to be. And we created that environment with a lot of alpha males around them that they looked up to.
Yeah, I had the chance to talk to Rolo a little bit, and Bernie Carvalho, your good buddy from Kauai, and a lot of the other players, and Roy, and it's a joint effort. Let's go to Paul in Hawaii Kai, who wants to change the subject back to missiles, for heaven's sakes. Paul, good morning. Welcome to the program.
You mentioned earlier on that you thought that ultimately what North Korea wants is to ensure their survival. I agree that's true, but I think what they want more than that is South Korea back. But once they get this missile capability that they can strike anywhere in the world, especially Washington, D.C., I think they're going to thumb their nose at us and say, we're going back into South Korea. There's nothing you can do about it.
Well, South Korea has...
Because maybe they're happy with him distracting us the way he has.
Well, Russia, are trying to reduce our influence and power in Asia. So they want those exercises to stop. They want us to reduce our presence. They want us off that peninsula. So that's a big.
Don't they also want a lot of stuff in the China Sea that they know right now they can't go and do because we're there?
Right. And the China Sea and the island defense and creating islands, and then what they're doing is access denial. They're putting capabilities on islands that we can't go in and take them back. So that's another whole game that we got to play.
Wow. Yeah. But there's another issue, another sidebar here, and Ricky and I were talking off the air about this, and I know a lot of you that are involved in the visitor and the hospitality business understand we're trying to woo these travelers. And as much time as we've spent, cultivating and nurturing and growing our Japanese tourists, all of a sudden, they seem to be not as important as trying to nurture this new Chinese tourist. And what you're saying off the air is the government's there. They way more control where their folks can go and visit. They control their tourism. Right. And they're trying to bring it to them.
So you're seeing Chinese expansion tourism-wise inside the Pacific.
Yeah.
So they and I've just come Saipan, Malau.
They want people to go to China.
So they are directing their tourism into those islands and completely dominating the economy, causing the resources for the people that live there to skyrocket and own businesses in there. And that's they are moving in that way to take the influence back. I mean, they're going back to Marco Polo times where everything west of Hawaii that they believe is their influence.
And let's make no bones about it. A Chinese, tourist or a Chinese citizen can no longer go to the airport and just go wherever he wants. He's under control.
He is from them.
From them, exactly. That's
from New Zealand's made a position where you can't go in and buy property anymore if you're outside of New Zealand. Because they're doing that. So at some point, you're going to have to figure out if wealth or your
It's a lot more us than it used to be, I think.
And I think with the non-nuclear movements that New Zealand had back in the 80s against Reagan That's all come to terms. Australia's looking at creating Aegis BMD ships, missile defense ships in the waters to help us in that fight with the Japanese and Koreans.
Okay, let's go before we run out of time, and we always do it just when we start to get rolling. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that we talked about was what people can do to let their government officials, in case our congressional delegation, know that they've been listening to this, they pay attention, they want to know that we are prepared for things, and they want to know why do we need to kick it forward on the calendar to do more testing. Well, and what kind of testing is it?
I think Hawaii has to look at it a little separate from the United States of America in terms of getting a layered missile defense capability in this island that is developed, tested as soon as possible. Not just for Hawaii, but for the regional of the Pacific, and even the cities on the coast of our country that can be defended by sea-based capability that is basically housed here at PAC Fleet that can expand if needed to create an underlayer under the short amount of 44 missiles that we've got. We can do that. We can force that. We can fund that. And it's moving forward. It's already moving. But your congressional leaders should be ahead of that, demanding that be tested as soon as possible. Once it's tested, let's get a lot of these
missiles. Let's get them here.
Let's get a lot of the interceptors. And let's not send them over to Europe. Let's not send them to Romania. Let's put them right here on ships here or at the Aegis Ashore site.
Okay, now what about the new radar facility? Everybody knows that there's a new radar facility coming, and it's going to be land-based permanent.
Yeah. So what we're doing is the SPX, the big golf ball.
Right.
It costs a lot of money. Yeah. It's got to be taken all over the place. The middle. Yeah. We want to have persistency and 360-degree coverage of Hawaii from any threat as it goes bigger. Yeah. So we want to put a discriminating radar on this island that's permanent, so we don't have to ship it out. So that's being developed now. They're looking at sites. I think there's a couple sites, Kauai, but I think they're going to go to the highest, here in Oahu or so forth to be able to see everything. So when you can see it and discriminate, you can better target it with the interceptors that you have.
I think that's of key importance, and there also has got to be a philosophy of, look, we need to protect what we've got, but we can't just be lulled into a false sense of security anymore. But what about people saying, well, you know what? Geographically, Hawaii's not important anymore because of all of these things that can be launched from wherever in the world. They don't have to come here and occupy us to occupy Hawaii. What good is Hawaii to them?
Well, I think it's a statement. A nuclear bomb, if they go, doesn't really. The effect it has on Hawaii would be just like Pearl Harbor was. Is going to send a message the direction they want to send a message.
So once again, we might say you're kind of expendable,
right? And they want to hold us hostage on that aspect. So they've got proven capability right now to be able to do that here. And you got to remember, he quoted. Their government quoted that they would test a nuclear weapon over the Pacific. And we know France has done it. We've done a little bit of that. So that
and how many years ago? And look at the effect that it had.
But I'm more concerned about what our reaction would be, what their reaction would be if they did something like that. We would react and then make sure that we are have a complete defense against this.
Where are you going to spend your holidays?
Home, finally. Virginia.
Home in Virginia, for a long time. Hey, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much for stopping in, and happy holidays to you. And Reds, everything's back to normal.
Well, they fired their coach and GM, so I would not want to be playing for 1-19 right now.
MDAA.org. We'll talk more about that. We'll come back 690.
And thoroughly